I know a few things learned from being involved with Craigslist for over 13 years. The deal there is that I make a living doing customer service, having learned in 2000 that as a manager I suck, which is why the enormously tall Jim Budmaster is CEO. Enormously tall, he's 6'7", and I 5'7", so we look like a comedy team or a joke going into a bar. The deal is, learned a couple things doing Craigslist that applies here, and now outside of Craigslist, trying to apply that in other areas. What we learned doing Craigslist are that a number of platitudes are true. Somehow we've created something like a social network, even if it's not formally one. Somehow, working with our community, we've created this kind of culture of trust, just by, as far as we can tell, acting on shared values pretty much each and every day. The first platitude is simply that, people operate by the principle, you treat people like you want to be treated. And sure, there are people who don't believe that, who don't act that way, but they're a pretty small minority. We usually call them, they're usually extremists or crooks, that kind of thing. The thing is that people are overwhelmingly trustworthy and good, and again, all that sounds a platitude, we bet the company on it, and that's what works for us. How does that apply to other stuff? Well, I keep thinking about this quote from Victor Hugo that I learned as a high school kid, which feels like it was 60 or 70 years ago, but it was only, unfortunately, about 40 years ago. And he said that there's nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. And somehow I sense that's a big deal this year. I do think 2008 is a pivotal year in American and world history. Trying to figure out why I feel that way, and very briefly, I look back to the invention of the internet by one of my fellow nerds named Johannes Gutenberg. And he invented this thing and it didn't get anywhere until an early blogger named Martin Luther captured an idea whose time has come, and basically he created the first killer app for the net. It was the right time, and people throughout Europe used it via social network and actually made things happen. Very briefly, that was taken up by a couple other bloggers. Well, like there were some in 1688 in Britain using a new networking technology, caffeine. And they networked coffee houses, and they created the glorious revolution where they accidentally invented representative democracy. 100 years later, bloggers you're more familiar with, like Thomas Paine or Ben Franklin, did a little fine-tuning on that idea of representative democracy, learning from the Romans to give them credit. So what we got here with the internet in this year is a tool which is open to all of us. It's everyone's printing press. People are starting to use it to make a big difference. The pioneers 4 years ago, Howard Dean's team, Joe Trippi, Zephyr Teachout, and yes, those are their real names. But they actually made something happen that had never happened before, and they actually got Dean a lot of traction. Now we've got some people who are doing that again. To give them credit, there's this guy, Barack Obama. There's this guy, Ron Paul, to give him credit. These are people who are using the net, and they're getting traction for their own causes in real ways, and it's working because they're enlisting a lot of people to be involved. Barack's key seems to be getting lots and lots of people who believe in making something happen. Ron Paul's version, he's getting a lot of people, but their focus is on per person making a lot more noise, which is not a criticism, by the way. You've got stuff happening. People are using social networking and other forms to make things happen. Because there are a lot of people who are using the net in kind of ways that people have used before, some people who are doing it in new ways, which I respect a lot. Like, there are these folks who are running something called Voto Latino. That's votolatino.org. Basically, it's voting rights for Hispanic immigrants. I've even done a tell and avail for them, in which I'm the star if by cameo they mean star. I don't understand Hollywood terminology very well. There's groups like Donors Choose, which are doing things in a new way. There, if you're a teacher and wanted to find a class project and want it funded, well, they put it on the site, and then any of us can donate $20 or a couple $100 to make that project happen. There are a lot of things going on these days. People are doing a lot of cool things in social networking, sometimes political, sometimes social. A lot of things are happening. Even if I'm getting in on the Microfinance Act, my shtick is that I'm thinking of using Kiva and microfinance to create my own Marshall Plan. But I've talked too much now. But that's 5 minutes. Ready is the soul of it.